Well, welcome back to the podcast. Today I have Julie with Julie Rupert Events. She's the owner and lead planner, and so excited to have you on the podcast today. She's our first wedding vendor that we are interviewing, and I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. She's literally, I would say, probably my favorite planner in the area, just because you're just so easy to work with, Julie. You're amazing. Your team is amazing. Just love you guys so much. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Super excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And James is here too, somewhere over there.
Hey.
But yeah, so tell me, Julie, just a little bit about your team, like what you guys do, what you enjoy doing.
Sure.
Share a little bit about you.
Yeah. So Julie Rupert Events has been in business since 2016. Started part-time, just kind of having fun, kind of like on the side. You know, it was kind of more of a hobby at first. And then with my impeccable timing, we went full-time in January 2020. Quit my full-time job, so it's great. Great timing. And really just have kind of taken off since then. So for all intents and purposes, we've been in business, full-time 3 years, a little over 3 years. But in that time, it was just me at first, and now we're, building and scaling a team and just trying to grow the business and just, helping couples or just in general. Mostly we do weddings, but we'll do rehearsal dinners, other events, showers, birthday parties, things like that. But primarily weddings and rehearsal dinners.
Well, I learned something new. I didn't even know you did that. That's amazing. Well, tell me, what makes it different working with you guys as opposed to other planners? Like, what makes you guys stand out? I have my own answer for y'all, but I want to hear yours first.
I mean, I don't know what it's like to work with other planners, but I think, for us, like, I have an emphasis on just let's get it done. Like the hard work, there's no job that we won't do. Do I want to take the trash out? No, but I'll do it if it has to be done. Do I want to fold 200 napkins? No, but we'll do it if it has to be done. So I think as long as you come together with a good team and everyone has the same goal in mind of just making it the best day possible for the clients, I think that's really kind of the base of what I try to teach my team and, kind of go into any event with that kind of philosophy.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, because I have worked with other planners, that not everyone, does the hard work and, for lack of better words, just thinks that they're better, than the job itself. Like, no one wants to fold all these napkins a certain way, but, the fact that you guys are willing to do all of the hard work just to get, the day done and have all these things done at the time they need to be done is just a really big deal. And, for the most part, I know we all work well together. Like, we will let you know if we're running behind, if something happened, which has happened before working with you, but, or like weather. I feel like we're your bad jinx for rain sometimes. But just knowing that we can rely on y'all to get stuff done, that other things that, may have happened, maybe something with the catering or floral, like, I know I can rely on y'all to, like, problem solve. It's not on me necessarily. And that doesn't always happen at weddings.
Right. And that's just part of the job, though. For me, like, that's what I think really what we're there to do is to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. But inevitably, things are going to come up. Like, there's going to be an accident on 81 and everyone's an hour and a half late. Like, that happens. And, so when people arrive and they may be late, let's pitch in and help them unload their stuff. Let's make sure we get everything done as fast as possible. Like, there's no sense in us standing around waiting for someone else to do their job if we can help them and make the day better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that with y'all, at least, there's no job that you would say, well, at least that I've come across, where you say, it's not my job.
Yeah, that's probably my biggest pet peeve of all when I hear someone at a wedding, like, in the moment say, well, that's not my job. Just because, it might not be your job, but really all of our jobs is to serve the client and to make sure that their wedding day goes off without a hitch and that they don't have to know that there's any issues. So if you're standing there doing nothing and you're like, that's not my job, I'm like, well,
It is.
It is. It's everyone's job to make sure it all gets done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and tell me, I know we're kind of talking about like the things that y'all do, and maybe you don't necessarily love it. Tell me, what is something that you guys, or maybe even specifically you, really love about what you do? Like, what's your favorite part of wedding planning?
Well, I mean, my favorite part of the wedding day is always right as, you know, the ceremony is about to begin, whether it's the bride or the groom or whoever it might be, you know, whatever the couple is walking down the aisle, like right at that moment. I love the start of it, the processional. And once I get through the ceremony, I'm always a little bit like breathing a little bit easier. I'm
You
like,
do?
okay, they're married. Mission accomplished.
That was the whole point of the day.
That's done. So, but that's always it kind of gives me goosebumps like every time. And, you know, when you've done over 100 weddings, you know, sometimes you're like, but it usually, you know, I always get goosebumps. So I think that's always a good thing. So that's my favorite part of the day. And then in terms of the planning process, you know, depending on what capacity you're working with them, whether it's, you know, event management or, you know, more involved planning, you know, full or partial planning. I do just love getting to know the couple. It's, you know, because then it feels so much more personal on the wedding day. And so, I mean, I feel like I've met some really cool people, certainly some really cool vendors. And so I think, you know, the relationships that you build was something that you didn't really anticipate when you started your business. You know, you didn't think
Yeah.
about like, oh, I'm going to meet people that are going to be friends.
Yeah.
So particularly in the vendor aspect of it is where, because you have repeat vendors that you work with more and more, and you know, you build friendships with them, and it's fun. I mean, like us, like we, you know, randomly started working together at I think it was a Glass Hill wedding. It was our first one, and that just
I think it was
got
2019.
Yeah, I think it was 2019. It was either 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then
Crazy.
that's great. Yeah, that's kind of crazy to think back, like the first time we worked together, and then like where we've come from that point.
Yeah,
like
well,
we didn't
and-
know each other at all. Like you were coming out with the dress, I think the bride's dress, out of your car, and I'm like, hey, I thought you were the maid of honor. I'm like, hey, I'm Julie. And you're like, I'm Emily.
Oh
She's like, photographer. I'm like, oh, okay, great.
You're like, oh, why do you have the dress in your
Yeah,
car?
I was
You're
like, that's amazing. I've never seen a photographer like deliver the dress to the venue for the bride.
I have done some
I
weird
can't
things
even
over the
remember,
year.
why did we have the dress that day?
I couldn't tell you. I normally have a weird memory that would remember that.
I think she was getting ready at her house. Like she did hair and makeup at her house. And then you were then they were coming to the venue.
Yep.
And because it was one of those like odd situations where I literally was like the only person there for a few hours, just like setting up. And it was even before I had a team. So it was just me.
And actually, now that y'all bring that up, really, you're like, oh, that's so sweet. It's really a control thing because I was like, we're going to get all these pictures done. And I'm going to be on time. The only way that's happening is if I carry all this stuff to the bridal suite and do these pictures.
That's
so you're
funny.
like, oh, that's so sweet. Really, I'm a control freak.
I feel like was it a COVID wedding? It might have been 2020. No,
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's been
I do
several
remember
years.
that. And I just remember like working with you is just so easy. I mean, it still is easy. Like I said before, we can just rely on you. I mean, you're always you'll be real with me if I'm like this past year when we had the hurricane wedding.
Oh,
And I was like, I just need like 5 more minutes of pictures. And you gave me a look if you're like 5 minutes.
I'll
and
be
I
back
said,
in 5 minutes.
all right, you keep me accountable. Like
She literally started her watch.
I did.
But you know,
I
that's her
started
job.
my
That's her
I
job.
appreciate it. I do. Because I'm like, not all planners would have looked at me and said, you know what, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Right.
I've had some really rude planners get in my face about just 5 minutes. So I'm just like, we really do
Well, and it
appreciate
also, like, you have to find out what's important to the couple. Like, if these pictures are important to the couple, like, then yes, here's 5 minutes. Now, once I had a videographer ask me for 20 minutes to hold the reception for 20 minutes so he could get outdoor shots without the guests there. And I literally did like some quick math in my head and was like, all right, if you just want to pay the couple X amount of dollars, because that's how much 20 minutes of their day is going to cost them.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he's like, oh. And then I think like they were like, I overheard them like complaining about me in the corner. And then he asked me for like more referrals. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's ever going to happen, buddy.
You did not play nice.
Yeah. I'm like,
So if you're listening to
20
this-
minutes is 20. I mean, that's a long time on a wedding day.
No, it is.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever asked for. I mean, we know better than to ask for
Yeah.
20
Well, give me
extra
5,
minutes.
10. I think the most I've asked is 10. And that's if something
And
really
it's not
goes
holding
bad.
up introductions. Like, you're not
Yeah.
asking to, like, I was like, okay, don't ask me once everybody's seated and we're lined up for introductions.
Right. Yeah. Like that's a no. Like no, you're at that point. Just wait until sunset, or wait till
Yeah.
if you can't do natural light pictures, learn how to use a flash and do some fun flash photos later.
Well, and it's fun too. Like, I think that's the other part for me is that once this stops being fun, like that's when it's no longer like you don't start a business because you just want to work super hard all the time and be miserable. You do it because it's something you enjoy and you want to love what you're doing. And yes, so there's some weddings that aren't as fun as others. But I think when you can surround yourself with a vendor team that you enjoy working with, that you work well together, and you have fun. Like if you can't laugh at some of the crazy things that go on, then there's no room for us to do this.
Yeah. Well, and the rigidity sometimes of working with some planners in the past is just unrealistic for wedding days. Like things happen, and if you're not flexible and not willing to, look at your timeline and be like, you know what, photos are important. We'll give an extra 5 instead of lining up right at that time. Like, I just feel like it makes an impact on like the whole experience for your couple
Right.
and vendor relationships, all the things. So
Yeah, I feel like going with the flow on a wedding day, especially, is like a necessity. You can't be unflexible at all.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to adapt because things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and they do. Things will happen, and they do happen.
well, and I go back to Nathan and Maddie's wedding
Yes.
during a hurricane, and I'm just like, I don't know how we made it through that day.
They were so happy, and everyone was so happy. I mean, it was a total show. Like, it was...
Honestly, I think that's how. Like, if they
Yes.
were like on edge,
Right.
I feel like that day would have been a rough one.
Yeah, it was.
But
I mean, I thought it was a great day, and it turned out like the pictures were. I mean, and I know that you guys were concerned because of the hurricane. Like, it wasn't like we were getting great light, great views, great. I mean, there was a tent instead of the mountain
I
views,
know.
but it was beautiful. I mean, it turned out so great, and that was one of my favorite weddings.
same.
Yeah.
So Nathan, Maddie, if you're listening, we love you guys.
We do.
Oh man, but yeah, no, I just have so many memories of working with you. I think another crazy one that was at the exclusion is the wedding we did for Evan and Corey when they did not want an indoor ceremony.
Yeah.
I remember you were like, they're doing it outside, and
Yeah.
we're like, all right,
I'm like, as long as everyone's aware of the fact that everyone's going to get wet,
like
not just like sprinkled on. I mean, it was a torrential downpour.
yes,
That
Yeah.
was
And you want to
crazy.
share the time or the little detail where you handed out all of our
Okay, so I was trying
umbrellas?
to help, and we have clear
Oh, you helped.
umbrellas,
You helped.
and I passed all of them out to guests. So I mean, their pictures were like aesthetically pleasing instead of like the gaudy other
golf umbrellas, like
yeah,
red
Yeah.
and green and all the different colors.
So it looked really pretty actually. But yeah, we did not have umbrellas, and I remember you ran out some cocktail napkins out to me. You were like, maybe this will help. Oh my gosh, yeah,
Yeah,
that
so
was.
we're just standing out there with our gear.
Yeah.
No umbrellas because Emily passed out all of our clear umbrellas.
I did not really think that one through, but it worked out.
Yeah.
It did.
Weather. If we could control it like that, we would all be rich.
Yes.
If I
Oh
could
my
sell
gosh.
the sunny day package,
Oh my gosh, the sunny day
it would be
package.
amazing.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, and again, most of our rainy weddings, I don't want to jinx us, but like I have a lot with you, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, but
Kills me.
we've had some sunny weddings. We've had some nicer.
We have.
But hopefully
We-
more in the
we
future
earned
too.
those, but
yes,
yes.
we did earn them. We
We
paid
earned
the
those.
price.
I feel like our ratio is about half and half
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
It used to be about like 70%
Right.
rain.
We're just
Yeah.
gonna keep working together more and more.
it'll
and
yeah,
then
it'll get lower.
balance.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, tell me, what is a common myth that people have about wedding planning? Like when they come in there, like what is sometimes like a small dose of reality that you have to share with couples?
Yeah, and that's hard because I think people, for the most part, when they're looking to hire you, they've never done this before. So they're like, I got this. It's not that big a deal. It's not that hard to plan a wedding. So I think that's the biggest myth is that people don't realize like how much detail and how much work goes into it. So, and it's hard because they realize it after the fact, and then they appreciate you more after the fact, as opposed to like when they have to hire you. So I think that's the biggest myth, is that it's not that difficult to plan a wedding. Sure, there are personalities, like, for me, like if I was planning a wedding for, say, a friend or my daughter or something like that, it wouldn't be that hard because I've done it so many times. But for the most part, people haven't done it. So I think that's the biggest myth that you kind of have to combat with, when you're in that sales process. Like, a lot goes into this. We are worth what you're paying us.
Yeah.
That's a big one. People don't really understand. I get a lot of times in the initial conversations, like, well, what do you actually do? And I'm like,
Oh man.
so much.
You would have responded a little sassy.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I mean, really, I'll do whatever you need me to do, but there's a lot that goes into it. So
Yeah.
and I think as people go through the process, like, of planning, they're like, oh my gosh, this is like a full-time job. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
Well, and when we're talking with couples that book with us, we're like, hey, do you have a planner? And some of them are like, no, I'm doing all the work myself. I'm very capable. And I'm like, yes, like you can book vendors, you can go find them, you can, make spreadsheets, like all that. But like on the wedding day, you just have like, oh, my pet peeve is the venue coordinator that's provided by the venue. They're not your planner. But they know nothing about your day. They have not worked with you up until that point. They know nothing about what's important to you. And they show up, and most of the time, they'll come find me. And that is now on my shoulders to kind of make sure all the people are there. Or, if it's someone's aunt that did weddings 30 years ago, like,
Right.
it kills me.
And make sure everything that stays on time too.
Well, yeah, like I have to make sure the DJ's there, and then reception.
Which is absolutely just, even though it's a pet peeve when someone says that's not my job, but that is absolutely not your job. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason for the photography team to have to worry about when the DJ shows up. Like, that's definitely, and I think it's also like a big myth is like a day of coordination. Like, it's just not a thing. Like, there's no way someone can just show up on the day and make things run smoothly. There has to be some sort of meetings beforehand to find out about the vision, and the goals, and what's important to the couple. I mean, that's the main thing, is like, what is important to you about this day? What's the most important things? And then that's what we need to make sure. So if all hell breaks loose and, then we know, like, okay, these pictures are the most important thing. So if, everything else is going bad, like, this is definitely going to happen.
Right.
Or the food is the most important thing. So let's make sure that dinner is on time, and let's focus on that. And then we have to push something else, we can push something else.
Right.
So, but the day of coordination thing, I mean, it's just not a thing. Like, there's just no way you can actually do that without having, I say, at least like 2 to 3 conversations prior to the wedding day.
Yeah, well, I 1,000% agree, because like I said, there's some weddings that we have shot in the last couple of years where they didn't have anyone, or they had just a day of coordinator, and they just didn't know what was going on. And yes, I've worked with them throughout the process, and we have probably more like resources that we share than some photographers, but I don't know all the things that they've done with planning. Like, I know who the vendors are, but I don't know when they're supposed to get there. I don't know if they have the special thing with the florist for like the grandma's flowers. Like, I don't know these little details that if it's forgotten, it takes away 5-10 minutes on the wedding day. And if all these little things happen, it could add up to a whole hour wasted. And like you were saying earlier, the time of day, like how much time it actually is worth, like the couple spending.
Right.
And what money is being lost if you have wasted time.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's very important, and that is honestly why we also have a like vendor recommendations list where we offer discounts to working with the people that we know, like your team. Y'all come through, y'all know what you're doing, and
well, it just makes everybody's day easier when you know who you're working with, what you're dealing with. Like, when I get my questionnaire back and I look at the vendor list, like for event management, when I haven't been working with them yet, and I'm like, okay, good. Okay, that's a good one. And be like, oh, I don't know that one. So it makes you nervous. You're like, I don't know about that DJ. Like, I haven't worked with him before. That could, that can go either way. Really could go either way.
Honestly, that's why we do the discount, because for us, it's worth the $100 if, we know we're going to work with someone that will make our day better, the couple's day better. It's worth $100 to do that.
Absolutely.
So we're going to change gears a little bit. I want to hear, just from your perspective, just because, I don't know much about wedding planning, but what is, like, challenges for you that you guys face? Like, I don't want to say on the regular, but, like, what is a big challenge for you guys just with wedding planning or maybe even on the wedding day?
Yeah, so, I mean, overall business, the challenges are because we started, technically have been full-time in business since 2020. I don't really know what an actual year looks like business-wise. So we haven't had a normal business year, and then it's just been crazy since 2020. So kind of, I think the business side of things is what I struggle with. Like, I love a wedding day. I love talking to couples. I can talk to couples all day long about flowers and logistics and, all the things. But when I started the business, you don't think about, I started it to plan weddings. I didn't start it to, like, do numbers and
The boring
the
stuff.
business stuff. Yeah, payroll and
Taxes.
taxes and insurance.
taxes.
Taxes are the worst. And bookkeeping and all of
Ew.
those things. So
Yeah.
I think that's, like, the biggest challenge for me running a business is, like, running the business side of things. But I mean, in terms of challenges on a wedding day, I think it's just, you never know what's going to happen. The weather is probably my
Yeah.
biggest challenge. I know we've talked a lot about weather, but I mean, I watch the radar and I watch the radar and I watch the radar. And you have to, like, actually talk to people and say, I know this is, like, you really wanted an outdoor ceremony, but I really think it's going to rain. And then if it doesn't rain and they do it inside, you feel horrible.
Oh,
Like, that's,
yeah.
so I think weather is probably the biggest challenge for a wedding planner across the board.
Yeah.
For outdoor ceremonies, they're in outdoor weddings.
Well, and I feel like you have also, it was supposed to rain and y'all waited till, like, the last minute, and I've seen you out there, like, wiping chairs down
Oh,
just
yeah.
to have it outside. So, like, I know we all want that to be the end goal, but yeah, weather, you just can't help it.
Yeah. But you got to pitch in and just do what you can to make sure that everyone's happy, which is
Yeah.
virtually impossible.
Well, kind of along the same lines, just like as a business owner, what is one thing you wish you would have known back when you first started in 2016? Like, what would you tell your younger self if you could say, like, one or two things?
I think I would have, kind of dug in a little bit more, like, to build it faster. I feel like I kind of wasted those part-time years and that, when it was kind of just a hobby and not a business. But, I work with a business coach now, and I wish I would have kind of made that investment in my business earlier on to grow and scale faster. So I think that's really important. And for me, when I look back, I wish I would put some systems in place back then that I definitely have now, whether it's, a CRM system, just to manage all the inquiries and, billing. I remember I had one bride in, like, 2017. She's like, I don't have a checkbook. Like, I can't write you a check. Like, I had to she's like, can you get Venmo or, a credit card? So, just things
Yeah.
like that. Like, just things about, running a business and making it more efficiently,
Yeah.
run it more efficiently in the back end so you can focus on the things you actually love to do.
Right. No, that's a really good one. I can relate to that, and with photography even. So,
Yeah, definitely. I feel like starting any business, there's that point where you got to make a leap, and you're always scared to have faith in yourself to make the leap. But, everyone has to come to that point where am I going to take the jump? And
Right? It's scary. Like, it's definitely scary to, like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do this full time. You have to be in the right position just financially and, and you have to have the mindset. And I think I struggle with mindset a lot still, but
same.
it's,
Everyone
it's,
does.
yeah, it's just a whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's fun and you do it because you love it. So you don't,
Yeah. Well, and it shows. It really does. Well, that is going to conclude our part 1. We actually have a part 2 coming up where we're going to dive into helping couples that are wedding planning right now. So come back to that episode, but thank you for joining us. And Julie, where can they find you if they want to find you on Instagram, or how do they connect with you?
Yeah, so Instagram is at Julie Rupert Events. Facebook, we have a Facebook page, Julie Rupert Events. And then our website, you can always inquire through our website at julierupertevents.com.
Awesome. Well, and I'll include all that in the show notes. So y'all can go find her and go work with her. If you work with us, you have a little bit of a discount coming from us. yeah, we're so excited that you came on the show.
Thanks,
And
this was
we're
fun.
about to start part 2.